We got a few questions that were sent in ahead of time, and a surprising number of them read like this. It's been said that Star Trek is one of the most difficult universes to publish in. What advice or guidelines do you have for an amateur author working on a Star Trek novel who hopes to publish it?
Don't.
Run as fast as you can. I'm going to try to start the answer, and everybody hopefully will help me out here. Writing for a media tie-in property like Star Trek or Star Wars or Iron Man or any of these other television films, it's a very different process than writing your own novel that you would hope to sell to a publisher at some point. There's more authority involved. There are different masters to serve. Not only are you dealing with the owner of the property, in this case it would be CBS, but you're also dealing with an editor who may be shepherding multiple projects that your book may impact on. So it's a question of, can you write well? Can you write fast? Can you play well with others? Do you like getting paid low amounts of money? Do you like little to no respect when it comes to reviews and notices? If you can deal with all that, you can do this job.
The harsh reality is that Black publishes one Star Trek novel a month, which means there are 12 opportunities a year, maybe 15 in a good year, to sell something.
And last year, me and him took half of it.
Right. So there's that. All of us want to write Star Trek. There are 12 slots in a year. What can we bring to the table that makes us unique enough for the editor to say you're the right person for the right slot and opportunity? Plus, you're mixing all the different franchises: Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Next Generation, original series, the movie world now. So it's an incredible challenge to fit all of that in, and for an amateur who may have the world's greatest Star Trek idea, getting it noticed becomes almost an insurmountable problem today.
And there's also something to be said for slightly more difficult in some ways, slightly easier in others to, if you have a story to tell it, just not necessarily using Star Trek characters. Create your own similar, perhaps, but not exact universe, and you might find actually that might be more interesting in different ways. Just like certain bits of technology have come from Star Trek communicators or whatever, being inspired by that, you might find yourself inspired by Star Trek and inventing something new and wonderful.
Yeah, like any industry, there's a certain amount of just dumb luck in who you know that plays a part in this. Every writer that I've talked to who's ended up publishing for Trek or other tie-in properties spent years and years and years developing the passion for what they do and just the craft that goes into being able to write novels quickly on deadlines, whatever. But then at some point in time, they stumbled across somebody who was able to open a door or introduce them to the person that ultimately made the difference. I don't know how that happens. What I do know is that by continuing to sort of study or stay on top of what's happening in the thing that you're interested in, you're much more likely to come across those people at some point in time.
I think following up on what Dave Galanter said too is if you end up writing your own original work, and if you can get published that way, I think you actually have a much better chance of getting that way into the Star Trek world. And I think Kirsten's absolutely right. I think we all have different ways that we actually got into it, but in some ways we're unbelievably fortunate. And I consider it a privilege to be able to write in the Star Trek universe, and I'm just going to do it until they kick me out, which
could be anything.
I'm not sure what time it is. Check your email?
Yeah, the funny thing about writing for Star Trek or Star Wars or any licensed universe is that the process runs kind of backward to what you would do if you were writing your own novel. When you write your own novel, you're going to write the whole thing, and you'll find hopefully someone who will agent it, and they'll send out the manuscript and you'll try to find it at home. But when you're working in licensed properties, because the stories have to be approved first, there's no reason to write a whole manuscript. At most, if you already have credits, for original fiction, as David said, that get you noticed and get you in the door, you might write some sample chapters on spec just to show what you can do within the guidelines for new writers. But then what will happen is that's probably not the story you would be hired to write would be something the editor wants or needs, or they would ask you to pitch a new idea that fits one of their series slots that's open. And then that story, you work on it with the editor until that's approved. Then it has to be approved by the license holder who owns the copyright of Star Trek at CBS television right now. And then after that's approved, then you would write the manuscript, and then that goes to the whole same approvals and revision process again. So I would say to someone who aspires to write a Star Trek novel, first establish yourself by writing something else. Get your credibility by doing that, and then don't spend the time and effort writing a whole Star Trek novel, because that's not the way it's done. You would have to get approved before you would do that.